Jacob, born into a family with a divine promise, was destined for greatness, but his journey would be anything but smooth. From the moment he was born, grasping his twin brother Esau's heel, Jacob's life was shaped by competition and conflict. His name, meaning heel grabber, symbolized the rivalry that would define his early years. With the encouragement of his mother, Jacob deceived his father Isaac, stealing the blessing meant for Esau. This betrayal shattered the bond between the brothers, forcing Jacob into exile. Yet, it was during his time away, at his uncle Laban's house, that Jacob began to experience a profound transformation. One pivotal moment came when Jacob encountered God at Bethel. There, God reaffirmed the covenant made with Abraham and Isaac, promising Jacob that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. This divine encounter marked the beginning of Jacob's change from a deceiver to a man chosen by God. However, his journey was far from over. As Jacob prepared to return home and face Esau, he knew that reconciliation would require more than just words. Jacob's story is one of personal struggle, divine intervention, and the ultimate redemption of a man chosen for greatness. If you found inspiration in Jacob's story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories about transformation and faith. Let's explore more deeply into the life of Jacob. Jacob's journey is one of the most compelling stories in the Old Testament, a tale of struggle, deception, exile, transformation, and, ultimately, redemption. From the moment he was born grasping the heel of his twin brother Esau, his life was marked by ambition and conflict. The very name Jacob, which means heel grabber, or usurper, foreshadows the battles he will fight, not just against his brother, but against himself, against Jacob and Esau who could not be more different. Esau is brash, instinctive, and impulsive, a man of action, thriving in the wild, favored by his father Isaac for his hunting skills. Jacob, by contrast, is introverted, calculating, and highly intelligent. He is his mother Rebekah's favorite, and it is through her guidance, and manipulation, that he steals Esau's blessing. The deception was cunning, with goatskins on his arms to imitate Esau's hairy skin, and one act of deception shattered his family. Esau's rage burned with such fierce vengeance that Jacob had no choice but to flee, setting out on a journey. On the way to Haran, Jacob had his first profound encounter with the divine. As he lay down to rest with a stone for a pillow, he had a vision of a ladder reaching up to heaven, with angels ascending and descending. And there, at the top, God stood, reaffirming the covenant given to Abraham and Isaac, that Jacob's descendants would be as numerous as the dust of the earth. It was a moment of revelation, but not yet a moment of transformation. Jacob was still the same man. Intelligent, ambitious, and always looking for an advantage. He responded with a bargain: "If God is with me and will watch over me on this journey, then God will be my God." Even with divine revelation, Jacob is still negotiating. Then came the years of labor, love, and deception. Upon arriving at Laban's house, Jacob fell in love with Laban's youngest daughter, Rachel, and agreed to work 7 years to marry her. His intense love for Rachel is one of the most poetic and romantic elements in the Bible. So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, but they seemed like a few days to him, because he loved her. This verse captures the depth of Jacob's passion and commitment. Time seems to lose meaning in the face of love. But when the wedding night came, Laban tricked the trickster, substituting Leah, Rachel's sister. That was poetic justice. The trickster was tricked. But this is where Jacob's love for Rachel really shines. Instead of giving up or becoming bitter, he agreed to work 7 more years for her. This is a profound moment, because it marks the transition from someone who is only looking for self-interest to someone who is willing to sacrifice for love. This shows another side of Jacob, a person who is persistent, knew patience, and most importantly, knew how to truly love. For Jacob, Rachel was not just a wife, but a dream, a goal for which he was willing to endure hardship. In fact, Jacob's love for Rachel is one of the most intense and enduring loves recorded in the Bible. In a world where marriages were often arranged between families, Jacob fell in love with Rachel from the moment he first saw her. The 7 years he spent serving her seemed like a few days to him. This was not just romantic love, but a love of depth, one that transcended all barriers and challenges. On the night before he was to meet his brother, Jacob found himself alone at the Jabbok River, where he experienced one of the most mysterious and profound moments in biblical history. He wrestled with a mysterious figure all night long. This was not just a physical struggle, it was a battle of identity, a shattering of everything Jacob had built with his own strength and cunning. As dawn approached, the divine touched Jacob's side, leaving him permanently wounded, but Jacob refused to let go. "I will not let you go unless you bless me," he said. In that moment, Jacob's transformation was complete. He was no longer just the deceiver, the schemer who manipulated his life. He had wrestled with God and had won, not by winning, but by refusing to let go, by surrendering to something greater than himself. And in that surrender, he was given a new name, Israel, which means, he who wrestles with God. It was more than a name change, it was a rebirth. The next morning, Jacob, limping from his wounds, faced Esau. But the revenge he had expected never came. Instead, Esau ran to embrace him. It was a surprising and deeply moving moment of reconciliation. After decades of pain, betrayal, and separation, Jacob and Esau found peace, not through Jacob's schemes, but through God's grace. Yet despite all this, Jacob remained a complex character. His transformation did not make him perfect. He still showed favoritism among his children, sowing the seeds of jealousy that would later lead to his betrayal of Joseph. He still hesitated, doubted, and sometimes acted out of fear rather than faith. But his story is not one of perfection, it is one of growth, struggle, and redemption. Jacob's life is a testament to the truth that transformation is a process, not a moment. He did not become Israel in a moment. He struggled, fought, and resisted. He made mistakes, suffered the consequences, and learned the hard way. His journey reminds us that faith isn't about having all the answers, it's about holding on, even when things seem to be slipping away. So what are you struggling with? Fears, what failures or regrets keep you up at night? The story of Jacob invites us to wrestle with God, not to fight against him, but to cling to him, refusing to let go until he blesses us. And when he blesses, we may walk away with a limp, but we will also walk away transformed. Jacob was not only the patriarch of the nation of Israel, but also the father of a family filled with conflict, contradiction, and upheaval, a story that is a true reflection of modern society. His 12 sons, born to 4 different women, were not only the foundation of the 12 tribes of Israel, but also characters who carried with them valuable lessons about character, temptation, redemption, and loyalty. From Reuben's mistakes to Joseph's patience, from Judah's betrayal to Benjamin's loyalty, each of them left a profound mark on history. As we delve into each character, each story, each decision and its consequences, we not only find biblical lessons but also see ourselves in them, people struggling with life, temptation, greed, forgiveness, and God's purpose for us. Jacob's family was not a perfect one. He had 4 wives, Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah. Rachel was Jacob's favorite, but this created jealousy and rivalry among his wives and their children. Polygamy is not as common today as it was then, but issues of family jealousy, favoritism, injustice, and competition for affection are still common. Jacob's sons grew up in an environment of conflict, and this deeply affected their personalities and actions. They are not just historical figures, but also symbols of human character, from ambition, resentment, repentance, loyalty, to forgiveness and maturity. Started as Jacob's eldest son Ruh, the eldest son loses the male leader because of the weakness. Reuben is Jacob's first son with Leah. Traditionally, the male leader should have belonged to him, but he lost everything because of an impulsive moment. His story is not only a personal tragedy but also a lesson about autonomy and responsibility. Imagine a quiet night in Jacob's camp, the flames fluttering, and Reuben quietly entered the tent of Bilhah, his father's wife. It was a tempting moment, a wrong decision that he could not withdraw. This action is not only a betrayal to his father but also a serious insult to the family. Maybe at that time he thought that he was strong enough to own the family, or maybe it was an act of resentment because of his future. When Jacob knew the story, he did not punish you. But at the end of his life, when he blessed his children, Jacob said, you are the eldest son of my father, the first strength and power of my father, but you are flourished like water, you will no longer be made. Genesis 49 verses 3-4, these words are like a finance, designing the male leader who should have belonged to him. The life of Reuben is a testament to the consequence of the lack of self-control. Only a wrong decision can change the future. Modern society is full of similar cases. Young people destroy their career because of an impulsive act, those who lose families because of a weak moment. The autonomy is the most important thing to maintain its position. Next, Salmon and Lusix, corporate revenge. Silon and Lusix, the second and third son of Jacob with Loe, were the two brothers closely attached to each other, but also famous for violence and lack of restraint. The story begins with the tragedy of her sister. Gona was Sychem, the son of a local leader, humiliated. This causes terrible anger in the hearts of the two brothers. But instead of finding a fair solution, they chose to revenge extremely cruelly. They pretended to accept the marriage between Tana and Sychem, but set out the condition that all men in the city had to be cut. When these people were still in pain, Simon and Lusix rushed in, killed them and looted the whole city. At that time, they could think that they had reclaimed fairness for her sister. But in fact, they have caused a much greater crime. Jacob was extremely angry because of this action, because it not only made the family but also made the whole family through at the end of life. Jacob declared them, Simon and Lusix are two brothers, their weapons are the tool of violence. The curse for their anger, because it's too brutal. Genesis 49 verses 5-7, Jacob did not bless Musraider, instead despaired Musration in the Israelis. Uncontrolled anger can lead to unforeseen consequences. In today's society, how many people destroy their lives just because they cannot control the anger? An angry words can ruin a wayship, a hasty action that can lead to tragedy. Justice is essential, but it must be accompanied by wisdom and kindness. And Judas, the traitor, becomes the leader. Judah, the fourth son of Jacob with Loe, was not originally a notable character. But over time, he became one of the most important characters of the family. He was the one who proposed to sell Joseph instead of killing him. Initially, this seemed to be a betrayal, but in fact, it saved Joseph's life. Later, when Joseph became the prime minister of Egypt and challenged his brothers, Judah was the one who stopping, ready to sacrifice himself to protect the sidemen. This change shows a person who is likely to ape and matures. Jacob realized this and gave him a special blessing. The royal staff will not leave Judah, nor have any rulers from his lineage, until the Messiah comes. Genesis 49 verse 10, from Judah's lineage, he later appeared King David and finally Jesus. Judas is a testament to a person who may change. We may make mistakes, but if we know how to repent and act properly, we can become valuable people in the Lord's plan. Joseph, the tester, challenges to be glorious. Joseph is the beloved son of Jacob and Raise, but this also makes him a jealousy of his brothers. When he was young, he was sold as a slave, over the years of hardships, being unjust, forgotten, but finally, thanks to his talent and loyalty to the Lord, he became the prime minister of Egypt. Joseph's life is a story about the challenge, faith, forgiveness and plans of God for man. When he met him again, he did not take revenge and forgive, saying, "You are going to harm me, but God has turned it into a good thing." Genesis 50 verse 20, Joseph's challenging life shows that God always has a plan. If we are faithful and persistent, he will turn all differences into opportunities to fulfill his good aims. Dan, the judgment and tragedy of betrayal. Next, Dan is the son of Jacob with Bilhah, the Bikku of Arachan. The name Dan means judgment, reflecting his role and his future lineage. When Jacob blessed his children, he talked about knitting. Knitting will be a civil trial like a tribe in Israel. Knitting will be a snake on the road, a green snake on the aisle, bite the heel of the horse for the riding to fall. Genesis 49 verses 16 to 17, this prophecy shows that Dan will play an important role, but there is also a worrying dark side. In Israel's history, Dan became one of the first tribes to leave God to worship the idol. They set up their own worship center, contrary to the Lord's law. Some Bible scholars think that Dan may be related to the image of a traitor in the ultimate period, like Judah Iconi, who betrayed Jesus. In the book of Revelation, when listing the sects closed, the Dan is completely not mentioned, something worth pondering. Unconsciously and away from faith can lead to serious consequences. In life, many people start with good intentions but because of ambition, temptation or mistake, they gradually slip and lose themselves. Naphtali, liberal warrior and the mission of shining Naphtali was the sixth son of Jacob, born from Bilhah, the female Bikku of Arachan. When Jacob blessed him, he said, "Naphtali is a generous female deer, saying good words." Genesis 49 verse 21. This prophecy not only describes agility but also speaks of the personality of the tribe freely, without being bound and persuasive with intellectual words. Naphtali was not only a mighty warrior but also a symbol of grace and independence. Like a deer running freely across the fields, he was not bound by the constraints of others. During the time of the judges, Barak, a general from the tribe of Naphtali, led the Israelite army against the Canaanites and achieved a resounding victory. But is freedom always a good thing? Excessive independence can sometimes lead to separation from the community. The tribes of Naphtali often live separately in the northern region, and that makes them more likely to be invaded when the enemy approaches. This reflects an important lesson: freedom to go hand in hand with responsibility. Freedom is not only freedom from physical limitations but also spiritual liberation. A truly free person is one who lives under God's guidance, not bound by sin or the temptations of the world. However, freedom must be used to serve others, not to isolate oneself. Now let's talk about Gad. The warrior is persistent in thunderstorms. Gad is the son of Jacob with the cylinder, the mate of Loe. Jacob talks about him. Gad will be attacked by the enemy, but it will fight and win. Genesis 49 verse 19, this sentence not only describes the fate of the individual, but also the fate of the tribe. They are always attacked by enemies, but never subdued. When the Israeli people entered the Promised Land, the sect chose to stay across the Jo River, far from the center of Israel. But it is worth noting that, although choosing to live further, they are still loyal to their brothers. When the Israeli people went to the battle, the warriors of the tribe were always the leading people, ready to shed blood for the whole nation. The image of Gad is the image of a warrior that does not back down before difficulties. In modern life, we also face challenges, sometimes like Gad, forced, defeated, but it is important that we can stand up and fight to the end. Life is always challenging, but it is important that we have enough perseverance to stand and fight to the end. Those who persevere will win, not because they never fall, but because they always get up when they stumble. Asher, blessing and prosperity. Asher is the son of Jacob with cylinder. When Jacob blessed him, he said, "Ase will have abundant food, and will provide delicious food for the kings." Genesis 49 verse 20, this statement shows that the Asher tribe will live in prosperity, abundance of wealth and resources. And in fact, the land where the Ase sect is one of the most fertile lands of Israel, famous for olive trees. Imagine the green fields, the olive gardens, the luxurious parties are displayed with the most sophisticated dishes. The Ase tribe not only lives in abundance but also people who share during the temple period. Olive oil from the land of Ase was used in holy rituals, becoming a symbol of blessing and purity. Wealth is not only in material but also in open heart and gratitude. Ase teaches us that blessing really comes from knowing how to use our property properly, not only to enjoy but also to bless those around them. Isaac is the 10th son of Jacob, the diligent worker, gentle but easily exploited. Jacob describes Isaac as follows: Isaac was a strong donkey, lying down among heavy loads. He saw that the resting place was good, the land was fertile, so he bowed down to the yoke and became a slave. Genesis 49 verses 14 to 15, the image of a strong donkey shows that the Isaac tribe is a diligent, loyal and tireless working person. They may not be a warrior or love, however. The last sentence of the prophet also has a warning meaning. If they only know labor without protecting their rights, they will become slaves. In Sans working hard is good, but if we don't know how to protect ourselves, we can be used by others. It is necessary to have a balance between labor, wisdom and courage to not only live well but also keep your dignity. Zebulun, the man who expanded the SEA, business and trade when Jacob blessed the lunar lawn, he said, Zebulun will be in the coast, it will become the harbor of the boats, and the border will border Simon. Genesis 49 verse 13, this prophecy indicates that the tribe of Zebulun will have a strategic position in trade and commerce. Although their territory did not directly border the sea, they played an important role in the trade routes that connected the Mediterranean with the interior lands of Israel. Imagine ships loaded with goods arriving at their ports, merchants busy exchanging wheat, olive oil, and other precious goods. Zebulun became a tribe of prosperity thanks to their vibrant business activity, which not only helped them to gain wealth but also to connect with other peoples. A special thing about this tribe is that they not only focus on profits but also contribute significantly to the activity. Zebulun teaches us that not everyone is called to be a warrior or a priest. Some are called to be businessmen, business leaders, people who use their wealth and resources to glorify God. Prosperity is only truly meaningful when it is used properly to benefit the community and fulfill God's purposes. And Jacob's 12th son was Benjamin, a brave warrior. From War II Unity, Jacob gave a special description for the party miner. Benjamin was like a wolf tearing prey, in the morning he devoured the flesh, and in the evening he divided the spoils. Genesis 49 verse 27, the image of a wolf represents strength, aggression, and not retreating before any enemy. The tribe of Benjamin later truly became one of the outstanding warrior tribes of Israel. In the Old Testament, they were famous for their good warriors, especially their excellent archers and left-handed warriors. However, because of this aggressive nature, they were almost destroyed in a civil war between the tribes of Israel, Judges 19-21. But in the end, they not only survived, but became one of the most important tribes, producing great leaders. One of these was King Saul, the first king of Israel. But the most remarkable thing about the tribe of Benjamin was its transformation from a warlike tribe to a tribe of unity. One of their most prominent descendants was the Apostle Paul, who persecuted Christians but became one of the greatest missionaries in history. Beside teaches us that strength and courage can be a blessing, but if not controlled, it can lead to destruction. However, when transformed by God, a person can become a strong tool for his work. This is true for Paul. From an arrest of the church, he has become one of the most important pillars of Christianity. Their stories are not just history, but also living lessons for us today. Each person has a strength and a weakness, but when placed in God's plan, even the greatest mistakes can be transformed into blessings. Consider, who among them do you identify with? Which path are you following? If God could transform individuals, shaping their weaknesses into strengths, how much more could he shape an entire people? The 12 tribes of Israel are not simply historical entities, but they also carry a deep theological and spiritual significance, reflecting the diversity of human faith journeys. Each tribe has its own characteristics that not only shape Israel's history but also reflect core theological principles. Studying each tribe deepens our understanding of God's intention for humanity, how he works through individuals and communities, and emphasizes that each person has a unique place in the divine plan. The number 12 in the Bible is not a coincidence but a sacred symbol, representing the order and perfection of God's plan. It appears many times throughout redemptive history: the 12 patriarchs of Israel, the 12 apostles of Jesus, the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem mentioned in Revelation 21:12-14. Each time the number appears, it carries the meaning of God's rule, power, guidance, and unshakable plan. Each tribe has its own story, its own unique journey, reflecting different human qualities and how God works in each situation. For example, the tribe of Judah is known for its lineage of kings, especially King David and Jesus, who represent leadership, strength, and loyalty to God. When we look at Judah, we see a lesson in perseverance, courage, and leadership according to God's will, but also mistakes and lessons in repentance. The tribe of Levi had a different role. They were not given land like the other tribes, because their mission was not worldly but worshipful. This is an important reminder that not everyone is called to possess material wealth, but that some are set apart to serve God. The Levites produced priests who were responsible for teaching the law, caring for the temple, and keeping the fire of faith burning. Meanwhile, the tribe of Benjamin is a story of survival and loyalty. Benjamin was the smallest tribe, but from it emerged a group of fearless warriors who refused to back down in the face of adversity. This is proof that God can use even the weakest people to do extraordinary things. The Apostle Paul, one of the most important figures in the New Testament, was from the tribe of Benjamin. This confirms that even those with a flawed past can be transformed by God and used for His purposes. Another tribe that cannot be overlooked is Issachar, who was known for their wisdom and ability to discern times. In 1 Chronicles 12 verse 32, Issachar is described as a people who understand the times and know what to do. This reflects an important aspect of the journey of faith: awareness of timing, wisdom in action, and the ability to grasp God's will. Without this discernment and understanding, we can go astray or miss the opportunities God has placed in our lives. The tribe of Dan, on the other hand, has a controversial history. Dan was the first tribe to fall into idolatry, betraying its covenant with God. This shows that even those who are called can stray if they do not remain steadfast in their faith. However, the lesson from Dan is not just a fall but also an opportunity to return to God. This is a strong warning that temptation can come from anywhere, even among the chosen ones, and that it is important to repent and find the right path. It is impossible not to mention Ephraim and Manasseh, two tribes descended from Joseph's two sons. Their existence is a testament to God's grace, for although they were not direct children of Jacob but his grandchildren, they were still blessed as legitimate tribes. This reflects an important principle: God's grace is not limited to a fixed framework, but extends to those whom He chooses. In addition, the tribes of Gad, Asher, and Naphtali have their own distinct characteristics that add to the overall picture of God's people. Gad was a fierce warrior, always ready for battle. Asher was blessed with prosperity and abundance. Naphtali, with its free and creative spirit, reflects another aspect of the spiritual journey: freedom in God and the ability to walk with joy. When we put all these pieces together, we see that the 12 tribes of Israel are not just a piece of history, but also a profound theological principle. They emphasize that God's path for each person is different, but all are oriented toward a common goal: the fulfillment of His divine plan. Each tribe is a portrait of qualities, challenges, and triumphs that each person can relate to. We can learn from the leadership of Judah, the holiness of Levi, the faithfulness of Benjamin, the wisdom of Issachar, or even the cautionary lesson of Dan. The number 12 not only appears in the tribes of Israel, but also continues to play an important role in the New Testament. Jesus did not choose the 12 disciples by chance, but because He was building a new foundation for God's people. The disciples, like the tribes, had different personalities and missions, but they were all working toward a single goal: the expansion of God's kingdom. When we look at the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem in Revelation, we see the union of the two covenants. The 12 tribes of Israel represent God's people in the Old Testament, while the 12 apostles represent the church in the New Testament. This proves that from beginning to end, God's plan was complete and uninterrupted. So which tribe do we belong to spiritually? Each of us has a role to play in God's kingdom, a character that reflects divine intent. Are you walking in the leadership of Judah, the worship of Levi, the faithfulness of Benjamin, or the wisdom of Issachar? Or are you facing the challenge of Dan, the need to turn back to God? The stories of the 12 tribes of Israel are not just ancient events but living lessons for today. We can learn from them, reflect on them, and apply them to our own faith journeys. In today's fast-paced and stressful world, there is no denying that the stories of the Bible offer many practical lessons that can be applied to our lives today. One of the most important things that the story of Simeon and Levi teaches us is how to control our emotions to avoid making impulsive decisions. When we hear the story of these two brothers getting angry and taking revenge on the people of Shechem for insulting their sister, we can see how losing control of our emotions can lead to serious consequences. In today's society, we are constantly faced with situations that make us feel offended or unjust. Immediate, thoughtless reactions can lead to irreversible consequences. In business, for example, a CEO can easily make a decision to fire an employee for a small mistake out of anger, but this can destroy the motivation and loyalty of the entire team. Learning to control emotions and consider the consequences before acting is one of the most important skills that every individual needs to practice. Looking at Joseph's story, we see a person who had to go through countless adversities, betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused and imprisoned. However, instead of giving up, Joseph kept his faith, constantly striving to turn every challenge into an opportunity. This is an invaluable lesson in how to face difficulties. In modern society, we can think of great entrepreneurs who failed many times before achieving success. For example, Steve Jobs was fired from the company he founded, but instead of giving up, he continued to work, improve himself, and eventually returned to Apple to take the company to the next level. Similarly, those who are struggling in life, unemployed, betrayed or in a seemingly hopeless situation can still learn from Joseph, be patient, persevere and always find a way to turn adversity into an advantage. Because only those who do not give up have a chance to win. Destiny and self-change are some of the most important lessons that Judah's story brings. Initially, Judah was an irresponsible person, even an accomplice in selling Joseph into slavery. But over time, he gradually changed, matured, realized his mistakes and finally was willing to sacrifice himself to save his brother Benjamin. This story is a clear demonstration that people can change if they know how to recognize their mistakes and move towards better things. In modern life, many people have gone astray, made serious mistakes, but if they have enough determination, they can completely start over. A typical example is former prisoners. After serving their sentences, many of them have made efforts to reintegrate into society, build careers, and become useful citizens. This shows that no one is destined to be a bad person forever, but everyone has the opportunity to change if they really want to. Moreover, Judah's story also emphasizes an important element: tolerance and forgiveness. When Joseph met his brothers again after many years, instead of punishing them, he chose to forgive. This is a profound lesson about how to treat people in society. In daily life, we often meet people who have hurt us, betrayed our trust. But instead of letting hatred dominate, we can learn from Joseph, put ourselves in the shoes of others, understand that everyone makes mistakes, and forgiveness is the key to freeing ourselves from psychological burdens. In family relationships, friendships, or work, if everyone knows how to forgive and give each other a chance, this society will become much better. The way these stories connect with modern life lies not only in the moral lessons but also in their practical application in different fields. A leader learns from Joseph about perseverance and foresight. A young person learns from Judah about responsibility and maturity. An ordinary person learns from Simeon and Levi about controlling emotions. Each character in the Bible has a journey, a story that teaches us something valuable. The multidimensionality of these stories makes them not only engaging but also deeply relevant to their own lives. When we learn these lessons, we not only become more knowledgeable, but also people who have the power to change our own lives and those around us for the better. The multidimensionality of these stories allows readers to not only be captivated but also deeply relate to their own lives. When we absorb these lessons, we not only become more knowledgeable people, but also people who have the power to change our own lives and those around us for the better. The multidimensionality of these stories allows readers to not only be captivated but also deeply relate to their own lives. When we absorb these lessons, we not only become more knowledgeable people, but also people who have the power to change our own lives and those around us for the better. The end of the story of Jacob's 12 sons brings a profound message about change, forgiveness, and human resilience. Each character in the story, from Simeon and Levi to Judah and Joseph, carries with them a valuable lesson. Maturity, endurance in adversity, and ultimately forgiveness help them overcome the most difficult challenges. These are lessons that can be applied to modern life, where each of us faces. The final prayer is an invitation for each of us to always keep our faith in God's love. Wherever you are in life, don't forget that God is always with you, guiding you and helping you overcome all challenges. Take time every day to listen to God's word, to strive for perfection, to live a meaningful life full of love. Don't forget to support the channel, share this video with people around us so we can spread these great values and together.